Our kitties really like routine. Their lives actually got better with COVID-19 orders for us to stay at home. Life got predictable. Well, when we go back to work, things could get ugly. You guys, yes, they're having a little snack here. They have a routine now, and they think it's the way it's always going to be. But if you come home from work after you've gotten back to work, and you come home in the evening and you find urine soiling, don't think your cat is trying to spite you. Stress is nobody's friend. And, oh, Cindy, thank you for coming. Excellent to see you. Last week we did a Facebook Live on, well, it wasn't a Facebook Live, it was a webinar for dogs with separation anxiety. And we're talking about that issue this week with our cats. They don't show it the same as dogs. So I'm wondering if anybody's had any urine soiling problems. It's the most common behavior disorder in cats, and there can be a lot of different reasons for it. It isn't always separation anxiety. We're going to talk about that because I have a very personal story about this for you. In case we haven't met, by the way, I'm veterinarian Dr. Jeff Nickel, and this is our family border collie, Miss America. We're actually here to talk about cats this time. This is Gaston, named after the character in the what the heck movie was that, Carolyn? It was a animated kids movie.
He's a old family name.
And he's also an old family name in Carolyn's family. Anyway, and this is Tony, and he'll be the subject of a little discussion here in a few minutes. Anyway, in case you have any friends who might benefit from this because they have cats, whether they have a history of urine soiling, or these folks are going back to work, they've been at home, and their cats might actually have a problem with the adjustment. So don't hesitate to tag people in the comment line. And if you can hear me loud and clear, please hit the wow button, just so that I know that my microphone and everything else is working the way it should. And also, if this is helpful information, please hit the heart button so I know I'm doing something valuable. So let me bring you up to speed, by the way, on something related to cats, just in case you've been avoiding the media, which I try to. Thank you for the hearts. Okay, good. We're already doing something helpful here. Report from the Centers for Disease Control, the CDC. These are epidemiologists. These are folks who study epidemics. We have a lot of training in that in veterinary medicine because there are a lot of infectious diseases for all the species that we study. So the statistics and the spread and the concepts of virus shedding and carrier states and infectious states and chronicity, those are all things that we veterinarians, we get it. This is from the CDC. This relates to human epidemics. And their point is that although there have been only a handful of known cases of animals becoming infected with the virus that causes COVID-19, the advisory issued suggests people apply the same social distancing measures to their pets as they do to family with whom they're living, which means that if you're living with your family and nobody is sick, you don't have to socially distance. Distance yourself socially. Something, the 6-foot thing. But this means that keeping pets indoors and walking dogs on a leash at least 6 feet away from other animals and other people. And it's best to avoid dog parks, which it hurts me to say that because dogs have really valuable and essential social needs. Doesn't mean that all dogs do okay in dog parks. Getting them off territory for leash walks to sniff and investigate where other dogs have been and leave their messages and pick up the messages left behind by other dogs. They need to do that. And cats do it too, whether they're out in the yard or outside your yard, which try not to let that happen. They are social creatures. They exhibit it in ways that are very different than people and dogs in many respects. But all of that stuff is valuable, but right now we don't need anybody coming home with any viruses on their hair coat. So with respect to how cats and dogs may be a risk to us, which they aren't, we actually can be a risk to them, although they really are not susceptible to this in any significant way. But the CDC goes on to say, interact with your own pets as you normally would, frequent hand washing, and if somebody else gets sick, then the pets should be kept at a safe distance, just like a person who gets sick. So, while cats are believed to have contracted the virus from people in their households, this is like a handful of cats, literally, experts say there is not enough information to say that pets can pass it on to humans. We just haven't seen the evidence. Okay? So, Dr. Anthony Fauci, everybody knows who that is. He is a lifelong epidemiologist, has made enormous contributions. Thank you. I got a thumbs up, too. Maybe Dr. Fauci got the thumbs up. I think he deserves that. Man is priceless. Dr. Birx, another doctor, has been advising the administration. These people are essential to us getting through this thing. Anyway, he has pointed out that there is no evidence whatsoever that we've seen from an epidemiological standpoint that pets can be transmitters within a household. All right? However, some experts believe that some animals are more susceptible to the virus than others, and you may have heard of the tigers in the Bronx Zoo. They are not the same species as our house cats, and they appear to have a greater susceptibility. So, Dr. Sandra Newberry, director of the Shelter Medicine Program at the University of Wisconsin School of Veterinary Medicine, pointed out that cats have a particular receptor, and she quote, "We suspected early on that they might be able to be infected. We think it is more difficult to infect dogs." So, nonetheless, we still don't have any evidence to suggest that we pet parents have any particular risk that somebody else doesn't have. But pet owners can generally relax, Dr. Newberry said, since there's little evidence that owners pose a risk to their furry companions. So, not much to worry about. And, oh, Elizabeth, thank you for showing up. And Anne, excellent to see you. And thanks for the thumbs up. So, let me talk a little bit about an individual here, near and dear to my heart. We picked this little guy out of a litter. Come here, Tony T. Did you empty out your little indoor hunting feeders? I think they need another one, Carolyn. At least Tony does. Gaston's over there camped out next to you, believing that you're the source of all good things. Oh, here you go. Okay. All right. There you go. Yeah, right. So, Tony here, he's 14 years old now. He's been with us all his life. And he's been, frankly, a wonderful cat. We picked him out of the litter because he was the snuggler. You know, you test them all. And it was a litter that was raised with a family with children. Our boys were, middle school age at the time. And he was raised in a family with dogs. In fact, his family bred the Border Collie, who is the second cousin of Miss America, who was her predecessor in our home. So we got pets from this family twice. So we picked out Tony, who's now camped out with Carolyn because she's filling the indoor hunting feeders, and they'll be back over here in a minute. And but over time, he started to occasionally urine soil, and you just don't want that, do you? I mean, this is just Tony. Here, look, baby. Come on up here and have a cat food. There you go. He's a well-adjusted cat in so many other ways. And you think, if a cat's going to do something bad, like urinate on your furniture, you think, well, he must have a lot of other bad behaviors, and some of them do, but that's all he did. And that's the thing with pets with separation anxiety. Very often, that's the only thing they do wrong is act out when they're alone. Now, we have a 2-story house, and the rooms are kind of spread out. And we occasionally noticed that he would be in another part of the house, and we would hear him suddenly yowling and crying. And you think, what the heck's that about, right? Somehow, I think no? Okay, we're good. So what's that about? But our 2 sons have attended many of the behavior classes that I have taught to people. And by the way, I've got a virtual class coming up on Monday. I'll mention that in a few minutes for dog people. But anyway, they said, Dad, it was Jake, our older son, said, Dad, have you thought that maybe Tony has separation anxiety? I thought, well, it's like the cobbler's kids have no shoes, right? You don't think about your own pets because you treat other people's all day long. And I'm thinking, all right, let me put the history together on this cat. He cries out sometimes, and I have caught him in the act, crying out in another part of the house. I run over, and there he is urinating. And the other times, it's only happened when he was away from us or when we were away from home. Well, we have plenty of environmental enrichments for our cats, and sometimes that's not enough. The better term might be environmental naturalizers, because cats are supposed to, live free. they are largely wild creatures we keep as pets. And they have particular needs, which we try very hard to provide for these two little guys. Hide boxes, even a cardboard box will work fine. But we've all seen our cats up on a shelf and hiding behind things. We need to make sure that they have those opportunities, that they can get away from everybody. They've got certainly social needs, but they need to get away from it all too. So opportunities to get away from the other pets, to get away from people. Even though they love us, they need to be in a box or something similar to a box. And if you make hide boxes or you just stick a cardboard box on a shelf, turn the opening of it away from the room so that the cat can crawl in it and then he doesn't think anybody's looking at him. The great joke about how do you trap a cat, where you just put a box on the floor. They've even put a square with tape on the floor and a cat will position itself on there because it feels like maybe it's a box. So cats need these things, different rooms, various heights. Okay? Floor-to-ceiling cat trees can be really helpful, especially taller is better. And it's hard to find, excuse me, gentlemen, I use that term loosely. Carolyn, do you have another feeder for Gaston here? Because he's just been kind of a naughty little cat. Here you go. He's the white guy, Gaston here, is the higher status of the two of these guys. And he will compete with Tony. Never mind that Tony was here first and he's much older. That sounds like a human sibling thing. These are not youngsters. They're adults of a different species. And so the rules that we apply to our children, don't really work. Oh, yeah, he can hear Carolyn putting the food in the indoor hunting feeder. Which, by the way, I really like these as a simulation of killing mice, which is what cats are supposed to do. I like to put canned food in these things and then stick them in a Ziploc and freeze them overnight. So then when you take them out of the bag in the morning, it takes a long time for the cat to extract that little cat food popsicle out of there. And that's largely what they're supposed to be doing with their time in the wild, is catching helpless little creatures and disemboweling them and eating them with 4 or 5 small meals a day is their natural, not only behavior, but physiologically, it's how their system works. Thank you, Carolyn. Gentlemen, it's the boys who should be thanking. Tony, here, baby. Yeah, come on back up here. I've got this other feeder. Yeah, Gaston says, hey, I'll kill that mouse. Here, Gaston, there. So they need to, in the contrivance of our homes, excuse me, cats, it isn't really, our houses are designed for people. They're not designed for pets. And we need to put those nuances into our home so a cat can climb up high, really high. We built our own cat tree, position it against an exterior window, and if you stick on the outside of that window some bird feeders or bird houses with suction cups, you can get them at Wild Birds Unlimited. And they'll also sell you this film so that you can position it between the window and the birdhouse or feeder so that the birds don't think anybody's watching, but the cat's literally a few inches away on the other side of the window slathering and chattering, ready to disembowel these birds. And you'd think, wouldn't that be a frustration for the cat? No, it's actually not. That is a mighty quasi-legitimate predatory experience for your cats. And so do that. Let them get up high, let them separate from each other, and let them have cat-like stuff. So with Tony, we did all that stuff, and we still had a problem. Well, anti-anxiety medications have a real legitimate place. The brain is a very much physical organ. There's this concept that we have that it's this ethereal thing that you really can't put your finger on, and that medications, have side effects and don't have a place. Well, of course, all medications can have side effects, but we understand how to use that. I've done a behavior residency. I've studied psychopharmacology. I read current research, and there are new things coming along. And we had tried fluoxetine, which is the generic name for Prozac. It's a chewable. It's actually made for dogs. Cats like it just fine. It's been studied in cats, and it didn't work very well for them. And so we tried a different anti-anxiety medication from the same class called sertraline. That's the generic name for Zoloft. And we have a dosage range. I started Tony on the low end. He's one of those cats that's a little challenging to pill, so I got the pills. You can have a compounding pharmacy do this for you. I do it myself. I grind up the tablets, the sertraline, S-E-R-T-R-A-L-I-N-E, sertraline. Grind them up and mix them with fish oil, which you can get on the internet, and measure it carefully onto his food. And once a day, it reduced his anxiety. It bumps the neurotransmitter serotonin, but it also promotes another neurotransmitter called dopamine, which is a feel-good neurotransmitter. And he's had no personality change, with one very important exception, is he stopped urine soiling. And it really wasn't, we're not treating the urine soiling, we're treating the underlying cause, which in his case is anxiety. Now, cats can have anxiety. People, of course we can. Dogs can certainly suffer from it. But I had done everything possible for this little guy and finally needed to do that one extra thing, and it made all the difference. So there are ways of helping these cats. And one of the biggest reasons I make such an important point of this is that animal shelters are full of cats that were surrendered because the people thought they had tried everything, when in fact they tried everything but consulting with a veterinary behaviorist or a general practicing veterinarian who has a special interest in behavior medicine. There are a lot of sources out there for your regular veterinarian, and medications aren't the only answer, but they can be an essential component in keeping not only your home urine free, but your cat happier and more peaceful, because they don't like acting out and doing things that are not healthy and normal. It is not normal for a cat to urinate in its living space. They don't want to do that, but it's how this species usually manifests its separation anxiety. Many people have assumed that cats don't get that problem, that it's only a dog problem. It's these guys who, tear at the door and rip the window blinds down and bark and howl and have diarrhea and self-mutilate. And some of these separation anxiety problems in dogs are horrible. And then some people, well-meaning, well-intentioned, they make the mistake of confining their dog to a crate. Don't do that. They really panic, and they'll fracture their teeth in their frantic attempts to escape. But cats, on the other hand, they can do other unhealthy things with their separation behaviors, but most commonly it's urine soiling. And again, they can urine soil for other reasons. Litter pans that aren't cleaned, conflicts within the home with other pets like another cat, or in families that have multiple cats, they can have a crowding situation. There can be a lot of other factors, but for Tony, thanks to my son Jake, who said, Dad, I've listened to your presentations. Have you thought of separation anxiety? I better start thinking about it now. So we finally did what it took and got that figured out. So he's a more peaceful cat, and we don't have the urine. So I'm a real believer in doing whatever it takes to safely and improve everybody's life. So what about this problem with your cat saying, geez, I was struggling but adapting to being home a lot of the time because my person was gone to work all day, and now I must have died and gone to heaven because my person's been home all day because of COVID-19 stay-at-home orders, and now you're going to go back to work. And that change is going to be a little stressful for you and for me and for our cats. And so what do we do about that problem? Well, let's go ahead and set them up for success. Let's, right now, while you're still at home, implement those environmental enrichments. And by the way, you can go to my website, drjeffnichol.com, drjeffnichol.com, and you'll find the tab for behavior, and then you'll click on that and you'll find the column for cats, and right in there is environmental enrichments. Do those things. Do every one of them. And part of it is food dispensing, toys, and puzzles, but do as much of it as you can. But the other thing that I want you to do right now is get in the habit of having your cats get accustomed to a new normal. The new normal being when you go back to work. And that is that there are going to be particular times of day when you play with that cat. When you play feathers on a stick game, like this kind of thing. Where are my cats? You gentlemen, you've been snacking on indoor hunting feeders. Here comes Tony. And this kind of dangling toy like this, and it does erratic things, and the cat will play with it. They, by the way, usually do this kind of predatory play in the evening. That's when their little clock has them naturally in a predatory emotional state, because in nature, that's when the rodents are busy and out trying to forage for food. And so that's when our cats are more active. So start the predatory play in the evening. Don't use your hands. Use things that don't look like human anatomy. And then you want to also do cuddling at other times. So for example, the snuggling time, maybe the grooming, do that in the morning, or maybe late in the evening at bedtime when the dusk, early evening, early to late evening hunting mindset is pretty much beyond its time. Then you can do your cuddling. Everybody's different, and I talk about them like they're all the same. There's some broad generalities, but whatever your cat works for you, cat, and works for you, you want to establish a routine so that every day you do this stuff at the same time, and you want to start doing it now so that when you go back to work full time, you have the environmental enrichments and you have those routine events that you're going to be doing at those same times then that you're establishing now. So your cat goes, okay, well, my person is gone, but when they leave, they drop the food toys on the floor. And I'll tell you, the way to motivate a cat to really spend their energy and focus their brain on doing what's somewhat normal, and that is foraging for food and surviving during the day, you make that available while you're gone. So in the morning, I suggest not feeding your cats and drop the food toys on the floor as you leave, and then pick them up when you get home. So the cat learns from experience. Is your mom coming? Your cat learns from experience that when do you need to go see mama? Well, go ahead. Jump down this way. You're going to go down see mama? Well, jump down, honey. That's a big girl. There you go. So that when your cats are you coming back up here, Tony? Well, come on, baby. Come on, you can jump up. There you go. Hop right up there. That's a good boy. So when your cats, they see you getting ready for work, they're not going, oh my God, I'm going to be alone. I'm going to freak out. And they do, by the way, and they urinate while you're gone. Well, instead, you get in the habit of dropping these food toys in the morning, starting now at about the time that you will be leaving for work when you go back. And so when the cat sees you walk out the door, that's when their opportunities come to forage. And whether you want to use this indoor hunting feeder, you want to use a twist and treat toy, something like this. You may have seen me show these before, where you can put dry food or canned in these things. And then initially, you screw it together so that it's gapped apart enough to make it relatively easy for your cat to get the food out. And then again, if you're going to put canned food in it and freeze it overnight in a Ziploc, and you'll learn from experience just how much of a gap to leave in that so that when you drop it on the floor, the cat takes a while to extract that food. And they invest not only their brain, but their paws and their mouth, and it's got this funky shape which makes it a little hard for them to manipulate, which is not an accident. And then they work hard so that when you come home, your cat is good and tired because they've been doing what a cat is supposed to be doing, which is foraging for food. So your cat's tired, and associate your absence with eating, not, oh my goodness, what's going to happen next? Okay? So establish those routines now. Get your cats accustomed to scavenging from food toys, challenging food toys during the day. There's a website on my feline environmental enrichments in my website. I've got a link to a site about making your own food toys for cats, which is kind of fun, and other toys for them where they play with stuff in a box. And you can keep them occupied doing fairly natural things while you're gone. Those are toys that they enjoy in your absence, and then the scheduled times of day for cuddling and snuggling and for predatory type hunt and pounce toys, that kind of stuff in the evening. And your cat says, all right, I've got a new routine. It started when my person was at home. It went back to work, and I keep that routine going. And hence, we hope that we can reduce the stress of your leaving home again, and the cat won't freak out. You know, the truth is that nobody wants cat urine in their house. I sure don't. But the greater issue is the well-being of the cat, because if they were at peace, it wouldn't happen. And if they're relaxed and enjoying life, then they have no reason to urine soil. I hope that was helpful. If you're a dog person, or if you're a cat person who knows dog people, and there's a behavior problem in that canine creature, on Monday, this coming Monday, which I believe will be the 11th, isn't it? This coming Monday at 1 o'clock Mountain Time, and that will make it 3 o'clock Eastern or noon Pacific, I'll be doing a virtual behavior conference for no more than 4 people. And if we have more than 4, we'll schedule another one. But the cost is $60 per family, and you can bring any dog behavior problem to me. We'll do it on Zoom, and so you can show me the dog. You don't have to have your face on if you don't want to. You'll see me, and I will give individual help for those particular problems, answer questions, and set you on your way with your canine problem. If you have cat behaviors and you want to be part of a cat Zoom virtual conference, by all means call my office or message me on Facebook, and that's Miss America. You jumped on the cord there. There we go. You can message me on Facebook, and it's facebook.com/Dr. Jeff Nichol, Dr. Jeff Nichol, and let me know that you've got a cat that you want a virtual conference, and or you can call my office. Our phone number, of course, is on our website, which is 505-792-5131, or just go to the website, drjeffnichol.com. And by the way, when you do, you can subscribe, which if no charge, and by subscribing every Tuesday morning in your email inbox, you will get my Facebook Live from the week previous. You don't have to show up, and you can also you'll also get my weekly media, which is my question answer column from the Albuquerque Journal from the week before, and you'll get that at no charge. And if you subscribe, you will also get free my Pet First Aid and CPR guide, which is worth printing out and sticking to the fridge in case something happens. And it looks like I have a question now. And this is from Ann. Does Tony still have issues with separation anxiety, or do you give him the medication when you are gone? I think that's a smart question. There are as-needed medications, Ann, that can be given as a preemptive for pets who have situational anxiety. But the truth is that we give those in the really advanced cases to cats and dogs with separation anxiety on an as-needed basis, because what they have going prior to is a daily anti-anxiety medication. So the sertraline that I mentioned is an everyday medication. It really has no value given as needed. So we give that every single day, and that's all he needs. There are some cats who need a daily one, like sertraline, and in addition to that, they need a as needed prior to their person leaving, and we add in other things. Gabapentin is exceptionally safe in cats and very effective as an add-on. We sometimes use trazodone. There are others. The beauty of using combinations of medications is that the dosing of each of them can be kept well below the threshold for side effects. So you have cats and dogs who feel just fine. People are understandably concerned when I talk about medications that, oh sure, my pet will behave better, but it'll be a zombie, or won't have the same zip, the personality, the playfulness, the love and the life that we enjoy. No, if we had that as a result of medication, we're using the wrong medication or the wrong dose. So that's never a legitimate price to pay for improved behavior. We always set the pet up for success, and in the case of the separation anxiety issues, we provide them everything they need to succeed, and if we need to add medication, then we do. But to your question, no, Tony's sertraline is an everyday thing, and I started at a low dose. One of the beauties of using it compounded with a liquid, like the fish oil, is that if I wanted to increase his dose, I just measure a little bit more into the syringe, and then I put it on his food. But I started at the low end. He stayed at the low end of the dose. It's all we've needed. Stick with it. Works great. So that's all I have to report. So thank you, everybody, for coming and sharing a little time with me to talk about cats. We do the best we can to provide them a wonderful home, and I'll tell you what, it's only the very best parents who show up at things like this. So thank you again, and if anybody has any dog issues, you're welcome to join me next Monday at 1 o'clock. Or next week, next Thursday at about this time, we'll be doing another Facebook Live. I haven't figured out what I'll do it on yet, but we'll have fun anyway. So thank you, and everybody stay safe and healthy. Please wear a mask in public. Please stay 6 feet away from people. And just breathe from the tummy. I think we'll all be fine.